provides us with a lot of really wonderful opportunities. And so we're glad to partner with them. And the purpose of a community school is, as you may know, is to clear a lot of the obstacles out of the way, right? Our students and our families have a great deal of potential, a great deal of opportunity, but sometimes things stand in the way. And the work of community schools is to partner with the school and with the community to try to move some of those obstacles. We've recently done, Sunnyside has done a lot of work around food pantries and around helping families with legal and and food insecurity issues, and really work hard to make sure that we understand what the needs of the community are, and that even if we can't do it, that we can partner with people who can. And that really is the work that we do. I'm really, really proud of the work that we do at the school. Um, Always invite you to come down and check us out in action. This is a wonderful place to be. You'll be amazed at what our kids do. I watch kids every day uh, soldering and welding. I watch kids programming. I watch kids building computer infrastructure. I watch kids learn the chemistry of the skin and the hair and these really technical things that you kind of think, wow, I didn't know that a 15-year-old could do that. And to watch the pride when they're showing off and they're like, Mister, you can't do what I can do. I'm like, you're right, you can't. And that's a beautiful thing. So I invite you all. We're an open place. I love to show off our kids, and they love to show off what they can do. So that's a little bit about us.
Okay. What is the application process look like for the school?
So our school is registered is on, the schools students apply through My Schools, which is the same portal that everybody, they apply for everything. We have uh, most of our programs are opt are EdOpt, which means that they are not screened, and most of our kids come in through that way. There is an audition process for our computer graphics program. We do have some two screen programs, which are the cosmetology and the pre-engineering courses, and mostly because they're just very small. Um, but we have typically about 350 students who enroll in our school each year, um, with all, and again, from all different backgrounds, with students with IEPs and different IEP mandates, with students who are learning English, as well as our students who have a great, just a wealth of educational experience and strengths.
Okay, I wanted to open it up for other people to ask questions as well. And Maurice, thank you for coming because I know you teach at the school. So thank you
Yeah,
for coming.
yeah, Mr. Valdez is one of our stars in the cybersecurity field.
And I just gave him co-host as well.
Okay.
And you're all live on YouTube. Have a great
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Okay.
Do you have to live in Queens? I am sorry. Do you have to live in Queens in order to join the school?
So you do not. Most of our students do. Um, I imagine it's kind of our students have very long days. We have a 10-period day. Students who are doing CTE in 10th grade, 11th grade have double periods of shop classes. Our seniors have 3 periods. And so some of our students, um, have 8 to 9 periods a day, um, which is, again, they're doing more than what their typical high school counterparts are doing. And so students with long commutes do find that challenging. So as I said, we're absolutely open for students across the city, but the vast majority of our kids do come from Queens.
Okay. Leticia?
Hi, sorry, I'm going home now, but I
Okay.
was wondering, um, of the students that graduate, do you have like percentage breakdowns on like who goes to like what career pathways or post-secondary pathways they take upon graduation, and of the students who um get their CT certification, how many of them go straight to employment versus a post-secondary plan? I mean, pathway, like a trade school or college or whatnot.
So I don't have the exact numbers. The majority of our kids do go on to post-secondary education. Right? The majority of our students do apply. All of our kids are encouraged to apply. We have a college office with a full-time guidance counselor and 2 part-time college advisors who work with our kids. We meet with every 11th grader, every 12th grader every year to help them pursue their plan. So the majority of our kids do go on to college. The next group do go on to, and we do have some students who go on to military service and pursue their careers that way. And we have a select number of students who do go directly into the trade unions. We do have partnerships with the plumbing union, with Steamfitters union, with a few of the local trades organizations. They all get to visit and tour and do some work with them during the year so that they have some exposure and see if that's the field that they want to go into. So our kids really run the gamut. One of my favorite stories when I first got to the school, one of our kids who was an electrical installation major, and he says, "Mister, is it okay that I don't go and become an electrician?" I was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" He's like, "I'd really like to study biology." I was like, "Well, then that's great." So I think at 14 or 15, they may be super excited about something, and then over time they learn other interests and they explore. So it's absolutely the case that our kids go into college and do other great things, and there's a handful who stay in that field, but it's really about choice.
It also sounds like they learn soft skills that they can apply to and elsewhere. So can you talk a little bit about that, like in terms of like what, like even if they go into another field afterwards, it's like they're learning they're learning soft skills along the way. So can you
Yeah,
speak to that? Yeah.
absolutely. All of our students do a variety of work-based learning hours. Part of the requirements is that they do at least 54 hours of work-based learning, which can include internships, can include job shadowing, can include uh, just doing different field visits. And our industry partners do come in and volunteer with our kids on site as well. Uh, and some of it is as simple as we want you to learn how to interview, we want you to learn how to advocate for yourself, and they do have practice with it. Um, each of our CTE shops also has a certified financial management course. We should talk about that as well, right? So they're thinking about, what are doing some researching about what are the opportunities in the field? How do I think about this in terms of what the potential is with my field, but also what do I need to learn about myself in order to pursue this as a real opportunity. That's often absent from schools. And you kind of think about what does work feel like theoretically. And then you're surprised when you get to college, your part-time job, you're like, oh wow, you have to show up every day. Oh wow, you should, have to make eye contact or have to shake somebody's hand. And those are things that, seem very just natural for those of us who've been kind of working for a while. But as you're first learning it, you sometimes really need that explicit, here's how or why you should follow up on an email, or here's how you should do that, right? And those are things that, we do teach our kids explicitly. And those are things that, and we have a wonderful work-based learning coordinator, Ms. Agata, who she handles that really, really well.
Okay, thank you. And Leticia.
Sorry. So, is the school a Title I school? And then I'll have a follow-up question to that.
Yes, we are.
Okay. And so, given the economic circumstances of our state, the country, the city, as well as, and because you mentioned that a lot of students come from within the bounds of CB2, what does, I guess basically, how are the students being currently affected or impacted by the current political climate, just overall, or if they are impacted by at all?
Candidly, I think we're all impacted. I think, we do have a lot of conversations with students and families, either from personal experience of feeling anxious or feeling, financially, concerned financially or concerned legally. Those are things that we, obviously we'll handle that case by case, and Sunnyside has been really wonderful about giving us resources and connections with resources for families for direct needs. Um, we do have a Dream Squad. We have some Department of Ed resources that provide students with like language and advocacy as well. Um, I think it's heightened now. I think it's always been the case that our most vulnerable kids and families always feel the brunt of political changes first, right? And that piece of it is never any different, right? Um, and so I think that we work really hard to really understand what our kids need. We work to get our families to trust us because I think that that's another big piece that um, there aren't a lot of government agencies that families may necessarily automatically trust anymore, right? And so how do we build that community? And that really has become the first step, right? So before I can understand what you need, I have to get you to trust me to be willing to divulge that. And again, that's no different from what it's always been. But I don't think there's any of us in the school who aren't, concerned and worry for our kids because it's real.
So then my follow-up question, and I don't see Dr. Ross here, but she usually asks us this question. And me personally, right, I'm from the community. I have had peers that went to Queens Vocation. Well, it's now Queens Tech, but Queensville before back in the day, and I know how. Anyway, how can community board to best support the student and the school community?
So, I think I think for the most part it's around advocacy, right? We have some specific needs that we're working with, both with like infrastructure issues. Like we want to build a few programs. We're trying to build an HVAC program and looking to get some like renovation and equipment happening, which seems to have stalled. And so some advocacy around that to help there. Um, and I think also to your earlier question, like there are some really tangible needs that families have and concerns that advocacy around those I think would be helpful as well, right? So I think that um, we're fortunate in a lot of ways that we've been very smart about how do we use funding and how do we invest in kids, but we try to maintain, like, none of our kids pay for any of their equipment because we think that should come out of the school's budget. We are a Title I school, and so we try to use those very directly. So kids should not, buy laptops. Kids should not buy their cosmetology kits. And so those are things that we want to maintain. And so, advocacy around funding for those things and advocacy around some of the building capital work that we're trying to do to create space so we can create an HVAC program would be two specific things that I would love some support.
Hi, do you guys take questions from the community or is it just
Sure.
the committee?
No, sure.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. And thanks for the committee for hosting Principal Garcia. I just live a couple blocks away and always really curious about your work. And Mr. Valdez, we spoke at the summer meet and greet, Know Your Board. So after hearing more, but I'm just curious too, because CTE, the trades, a lot are in really high demand right now. And you were just talking about developing the curriculum. So I'm wondering, do you guys sort of look at kind of like how some trades are valued and then are constantly developing the majors that you guys have to meet that demand? Or do you have like a 5-year plan on the development and then run with the majors you've developed from that? Just curious if you could talk about that.
So on the practical level, every 3 years, each of the CTE programs has to be recertified. And part of the recertification process involves really from stem to stern, like really looking at what the curriculum is, what the assessments are, and working with industry partners so we can understand what the innovations in the field are, right? So very recently we had our, last year we had our computer we had a computer repair track, which we were learning was, becoming obsolete in the sense of, nobody's repairing computers in the same way, right? And so shifting it more towards computer information systems and shifting it towards, how are kids building infrastructure and what does that look like, has been something that was directly from that process, right? As industry professionals saying, this is where the jobs are, this is where the jobs are disappearing, able to kind of shift and move. And so each of the programs every 3 years is updated in that way. On the regular day to day, the industry partners really have been important. I run a high school, right? I pretend to know a little bit about computers, right?
I think we all do.
Right. Mr. Valdez tells me stuff and I see his class and I'm like, sure, I got that. And then I look it up real quick. So all of us, and even the CT teachers, they're doing continual research. Like they're trying to just stay in front of what is, because the worst thing we want to do is underprepare kids or think we're giving kids an opportunity and then they realize that, oh, that was 5 years ago stuff.
Yeah.
So it is a continual conversation with partners to make sure that the curricula stays fresh, to make sure the assessments are there. And employers are happy to do it because they're, it's not raining qualified people, right? And so they're as invested in having kids prepared to fill these positions, and the amount of time and capital that it takes to, train new people and to get people, and to get workers who have those soft skills as well as those hard skills. Employers are happy to tell us this is what we need. I just did a bunch of interviews. Nobody said this. Help kids to understand that. And so that partnership has been important.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thanks so much for what you do. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thanks.
And question, did we ever say where the school is located? Do we ever give the address for the school during this
I don't
presentation?
think we did. So we are
Okay.
we're in Sunnyside. Sunnyside. We're on 3702 47th Avenue.
Okay. And then how long have you been principal, and what's your background in terms of all of this? Just curious. If you feel
So
if
this
you
is
feel if you feel comfortable saying.
that's fine.
Okay.
So this is my 4th year at the school. I was not a CT person. I was a principal in Brooklyn, in the Old South Shore campus in Canarsie, for a few years before I transferred here. Really just, saw the opportunity. Like these are programs that honestly every kid across the city should be able to participate in, right? And wanted to explore it, and wanted to see, okay, how do I take what's existing and what works? Because Queens Tech was a great school before I got there. It's going to be a great school, the next 100 years, right? And so how do we try to do it to make it more accessible to kids, to make sure that more students know about it, have the opportunity to do it. And as I mentioned at the beginning, like really, like in my heart, every kid is a CTE kid, right? And because you've had academic struggles, because there's a label, because you're learning English, doesn't mean you're excluded from these programs. And that really has been my goal, to make sure that, my dream is that 100% of my kids will get the CT endorsement every year. And that's always the goal.
Okay. Did anybody have any other questions? And I want to thank you, Mr. Garcia, for presenting and helping us learn more about your school. The thing that I'm thinking in terms of what you're asked as to how CB2 could help, I was thinking, but I'm not sure what the limitations or restrictions are. But when we prepare our budget priority request, we should maybe be thinking. I think a lot of times our requests have been, when it's come to like education related, they've been broad. And then sometimes they've been very like general and broad. And I think what happens then is that we get the response back from DOE that we don't understand what you want or need. And hearing you say that just made me think it's like this would be like a specific request. Like we could be like, maybe if we knew what schools in our district specifically needed, then we could be making more specific requests and hoping to get that kind of funding. I'm just thinking out loud. It just made me think about that when you said that.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And, I think, as I was thinking I've been thinking a lot about the same, sort of like we have the same needs that come up all the time, right? And sometimes, and sometimes maybe the capital investment, because that's something tangible, something discrete, and you have to worry about that year to year, right? So that might be something that really could help us.
Okay.
And so with
Okay.
your permission, I can send you our wish list of things that we've been trying to push with the city, and you can let me know like where that would be something that you can advocate for
Okay, would love that.
on our
Would love
behalf.
that. Yes, yeah. Along with the PowerPoint that you prepared, but wasn't able to present. Yes, absolutely. I think we should be thinking about this, and maybe it's better. We just submitted our request for fiscal year 2026, I guess, or whatever for the upcoming fiscal year. But maybe this is
Mhm.
something for us to know, and maybe some information we can be gathering along the way, so that when we do get into that budget period, we know what we're asking for and can be very specific. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate you all taking the time to learn about my school, and as I said, the offer is open. If you ever want to come check us out, please
We
do.
would love, that's another thing, we would love that. We were able to get a tour of Aviation High School, so we'd love a tour of Queens Technical High School. We
Oh,
would
well,
love that.
if you're going to see Mr. Jackson's school, I'd be upset if you didn't come visit us.
Okay, all right.
All right,
That
have
works.
a
I
good
would
night,
love that.
everybody.
Would love that. Okay, so let's talk offline about that. We can communicate offline about that.
Yes,
Okay.
please. All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. Have a good evening. Okay, Ms. Horn, you are up. We want to hear about foster
Thanks.
parenting.
Thank
Yes.
you. My name is Sandra Horn, and I'm the foster parent recruiter at Abbott House. I have several members of our team. My department is family development, so we have our director, Ms. Narajo, our intake specialist, Ms. Campbell, and our VP of foster care, Ms. Grant.
Okay, welcome everyone.
So we'll just jump right in. Okay. Let's see. So again, thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to present and give you a little bit more detail in why we're here. Abbott House is a foster care agency. We have supported, excuse me, over 2,500 children in foster care, which includes unaccompanied migrant children, struggling families, and adults with developmental disabilities in the New York metropolitan area. We have 3 locations. The Bronx office is 1775 Grand Concourse. Our main office in Irvington, New York, which is located in Westchester County. And we also have an office in Windsor, which is located in Orange County. Families often come to us from a trauma-ridden past and often have lost their sense of place in the world. They come to us with the notion of a future that's stalled in the present. Our goal is to help our families create a durable sense of family, home, and community, and to prepare them for a promising future. Family comes first at Abbott House. The primary focus of foster care is for reunification. So we work very hard to unite families and create new ones so those entrusted to our care feel a sense of belonging rooted in hope and community. When children enter foster care, they're often traumatized for a variety of reasons. The need to enter foster care causes added trauma, which can trigger additional emotional distress in our youth. Often these circumstances will present as problematic behavior when they're placed with another family. Again, our goal is to help our children and adolescents create a lasting sense of family, home, and community, and to prepare them for a promising future. I'm now going to share a short video of 2 of our former foster parents discussing children in care that came into their home and their experience. Please let me know if you're unable to hear.
What are the kids like when they first come? It depends on the child, but when you have those extreme cases of sexual abuse, physical abuse, drug abuse, and not necessarily that the kid has experienced it firsthand, but they witnessed it. You have to break down all of those barriers that they have because there's loyalty to the people that they're trying to protect, namely their family, or something has been disclosed possibly by them, and now the family's been pulled apart. It's my fault. So they're coming sometimes with that baggage of not trusting. You can have everything there, and I'm still not going to let down that guard. So it's breaking down that barrier that they have up, that you can trust me, you're going to be safe here, nobody's coming into the bedroom. And I've been fortunate enough to have bedrooms where they can be by themselves and be able to close the door to know that they're safe. I'm going to be here, myself and my husband, in the morning when you wake up. As soon as you wake up, we're going to be here. When you come home from school, we're going to be here so that they can start to relax. Once the relaxation comes in with the therapy, with our training, with knowing the community, then they start to settle down. Then you can kind of have some inroads to, okay, you can do this. You're here. I know it's not your fault, letting them know that you had nothing to do with this, but I'm here to take care of you. We're here to see that you're okay and feel safe. You know what's hard? When they hurt, they don't realize that they're hurting. When you see the hurt, and they keep going back to it, they want to see that their parents get help because they don't want to give up on their parents.
As you can imagine, it's a very trying job to be a foster parent. So partnership is an essential part of not only supporting our children in care, but also supporting our foster parents. At Abbott House, our philosophy and mission are geared toward providing our children and adolescents with the foundational development of healing, safety, and the opportunity they need to thrive in their preferred family settings through counseling, health care, support, life skill building, academic support, monthly foster parent support group meetings, employment training, Fair Future coaches for youth from New York City who are between the ages of 12 to 26 years of age. They act as an additional support to our case planning team as what quote unquote life coaches for our youth. We also partner often with an organization called Culture for One, which provides any youth in care who has an interest in developing their talent in the arts, whether it be dance, music, animation, what have you. I'm now going to share a short video about what partnership looks like at Abbott House. Please let me know if you're unable to hear.
Abbott House is heavily involved in my house. They make sure when I can't come to the agency, they're there at my home. It's like a team effort. When you see a child have a breakthrough and the light goes off in their head that I'm good, it's like nirvana.
What do I feel that my children need most from me? Stability, structure. One of my kids mentioned to me he moved a lot. And I said, well, you know, I've lived in this house for the last 25 years. Don't you feel comfortable coming home to the same house every day and knowing that your room is going to be there? And he was like, yeah. Just the fact that they don't have to worry about where am I going to live at next week? Are we still going to be here? Is there going to be something in the refrigerator?
For me, it's making you feel safe. Nobody's going to do anything here to you if I can help it.
I had one kid say, well, you know, my parents told me foster care was going to be terrible and they weren't going to feed me. It's not that bad. And to hear a child say foster care is not that bad after all shows that you're doing something, making them feel comfortable coming into your home and seeing that, yeah, you know, the goal is to return to parent, but while you're here, I'm going to make you feel like I can be your parent for that moment in time. When I got Ramel, they said it was an emergency placement, him and his sister. Ramel was, quote unquote, mildly retarded. And after about 5 days, I said, you know what, let them stay. Ramel didn't talk. But as we got to know him, we realized that the kid was not retarded. He couldn't read. So he was functioning at a very, very low level, and all the tests was off because he couldn't read. Well, Abbott House came in, advocated. I started taking him to Sylvan 3 days a week. They paid for him to get tutoring. His reading scores shot up. Ramel got a Regents diploma, and he's on his own today. Sometimes when you look back and you think that you're not making a difference, I think about him.
One of the kids just left for college. She has a diagnosis of depression with attachment disorder. We were all like on pins and needles. My son took her to college. She's fine. She's doing fine. That's when it's good. It's all good because she got the therapy. She got services. Everybody was there to make it through. It's going to pay off. She's going to make a great contribution to society. She's going to be somebody to really look for.
We do what we can, and we can't save everybody. I understand that, but just to make an impact on one child, and that child calls you, even if it's 10 years from now, you know you're doing good work.
To become a foster parent, there's several requirements. The first requirement you must be over the age of 21. You must be in good physical and mental health. You must have a source of income, meaning that independent, you can support yourself however that may be, if you're retired, working, or if you receive, let's say, SSI or something along those lines. You live in a home with enough space for children and free from health and safety hazards. All adults in your home who are 18 years or older must pass 3 background checks. The first is the New York State Central Register for Child Abuse and Neglect, called the SCR. We'll look at the address that you resided in for the last 28 years. So going back at least to about 1997-ish. The second is the SEL, the Staff Exclusion List check, which looks if you've ever had an incident with someone of the vulnerable population, such as developmentally disabled. And the third is the fingerprint consent form. You'll fill out the form, and then I would schedule your fingerprint appointment at a location that's close to you. Our agency of choice is Identigo. So they have many, many different offices throughout New York State. And you just let me know, and I schedule your appointment according to your availability at no cost to you, of course. There are additional documentations that are required by OCFS, and then I walk you through each step of the process, and then members of my team will take the next step, which is our foster parent trainer, Ms. Roman. Once I receive your 3 background checks back and they're cleared, you're invited to our next cycle of training, which is called NTDC with TRIP Principles. All of our training is done online, and it's a total of 30 hours. It talks about everything from how trauma affects the brain, how to support a child in care who has suffered from separation, grief, and loss, etc. And then, of course, we go through the next stages, which would be you'll be assigned a family development home specialist who will come to your home to do approximately a 2-hour interview just to get to know you based off of the paperwork, in addition to just asking you a series of questions. And also to review the home, again, to make sure that it's it's ready for a child to come in. And depending on the age of the child that you're looking to support, the dominant group, I should say, of children who are currently coming into care are teens and large sibling groups. That's pretty much what's in demand. So depending on what you're looking on, the age of the child that you're looking to support, you can have a child placed in your home within 24 hours of your home being open. The overall process really depends on the applicant. Generally speaking, it's about a 6-month process, but it can take less or longer, just depending on how long it takes you to complete your application, how consistent you are in training, and if you're consistent in the process in general. I have my telephone number. It's my work cell. I'm available anytime, Monday through Friday, between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. I'm now going to stop sharing and answer any questions. I'll also put my number in the chat in case anyone would like to contact me offline. Does anyone have any questions?
In terms of the requirements for foster parenting, when you say that you have enough space in your home for children, what do they consider enough space?
Well, like for example, let's say if you have a 2-bedroom apartment, that you have, and maybe if you have a child of your own, that you can fit another bed in that room, and along with it has a dresser, a closet, so you have space. If you have a 1-bedroom apartment, to be honest, you can foster, but the only age you could foster is from pretty much 0 to 3, and children that age are not coming into care at that rate.
And how urgent would you say is the need for foster parenting?
Urgent, like yesterday urgent. Like yesterday urgent. We have so many children, Ms. Campbell can speak to it as well, but we have so many children that we get called for that are in need, specifically the teens, that are in dire need of a home and some support.
Okay,
But I think the past week, Sandra and Simone, I think we placed like 3 different siblings group
Yeah.
of three or more. The past week it was very intense with placements, and we were able to locate homes for those kids.
Yeah.
So it's urgent, the need.
Okay.
So,
Dr. Oh,
can
go
I
ahead.
jump in?
Yes, please do.
So, I'm hoping that people are familiar with ACS, all right? So children are only removed from care, from their parents' care, if their parents are unable to safely care for that child. And when children are removed, the first thing that ACS looks for is for family members. And family members are the best people to care for children if parents are unable to do that. And sometimes they're unable to find family members who are able and willing to care for the children that they're removing from their parents. At Abbott House, one of the things that we also do is continue to look for family members when children are not placed with family. So if a child comes into foster care and is placed with Abbott House, and that child is placed with someone who they're not related to, the search for families does not stop. There is a dire need for foster parents, as Sandra expressed, for teenagers and for families with siblings, in order to ensure that siblings continue to live together and they're not split and separate 500 different, how many different homes there are, depending on the siblings. So ACS is working desperately, and the agencies that contract with ACS, to find families who are able to care for siblings when those siblings come into care. And our work with the families does not stop when the child is placed in care. Our work actually intensifies because we're trying to get those kids home, helping parents to change whatever needs to change so that their children can return home. We are in desperate need of foster parents. ACS have a children's center, which is it's just a center where assessment is being done for medical, physical, mental health once a child is removed from their parents. And kids are not supposed to stay at that center. They are transported there to see a psychologist, see a therapist, see a doctor, just to make sure that they're okay and healthy, and to find the best possible placement for them. So, there are times when children have to stay at that center because we do not have families to foster those young people. And so we're asking you, if you want to become foster parents or you know of anyone that might be willing to become a foster parent, to please spread the word, because there is a dire need. In the past, we had grandparents used to foster, right? And folks who have retired. But since the pandemic, that pool has shrunk, right? So you have foster parents they're retiring from fostering. And so we're asking for younger people to step up and try to help us to help our young people, to help our community, so that we can support families and get children home. And while they're with us in care, we provide the best possible service and all the support that we can to ensure that they have a brighter future when they do return home.
Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Ross and then Leticia.
Yeah, my original question had to do with the expected length or duration of time. And is this a matter of months, years? If you're trying to transition people back. And then the other question came up from just what you just finished saying. Why is it that the grandparent generation is disappearing? Do you think that it's not as good an arrangement?
It's not disappearing totally. It depends on the needs of the child. Sometimes you have grandparents that are not able to support that child. And if you have grandparents that does not have the support, so if you want to foster your grandchild and that child needs to go to school and child needs to go to therapy or needs to have all the other extracurricular activities, and the grandparent might not be able to
I guess I
provide
was
all those services.
misunderstood a little bit of that then, because I'm not saying that I would be in a position to step up to the plate, but I could be. It's interesting, and certainly a meaningful thing, but obviously I'm more in the grandparent generation. Are you interested in older people, or do you want people? You mentioned the importance of siblings. If there are other grandchildren around, however, they
No,
could,
no.
just
Yeah, so we are interested in all, and it doesn't matter the age, right? As long as you're willing and able to support a child and care for that child. What I mentioned is that we had older foster parents, that those older adults who have retired from their main employment and become foster parents, and then they retire from fostering.
well,
So
yeah.
it limits the pool of foster parents. And not, churches used to be a place that we could recruit for foster parents. And although Sandra does reach out to churches, sometimes that's not a place where we are able to recruit, right? And all of this, mostly since the pandemic, it has been more difficult in recruiting foster parents.
But what would be the expected duration of a?
So it depends on what's needed in regards to behavior change on the parents. So we cannot say that you will foster a child for 6 months or 2 months or 3 months or a year. Change sometimes take a long time, especially if a parent is addicted to some type of drug, substance abuse issues. Getting off of that takes time. And being able to get off of that, address the other things that might have resulted in that parent using drugs, all of that takes time. So fostering can be within 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it depends. After a certain amount of time, when parents cannot successfully plan for their children to return, we try to find alternative permanent homes or permanent families for children. That can be through adoption, or it can be through kinship guardianship. So if, let's say, a grandparent decided to foster their granddaughter, and that granddaughter cannot return to their natural parents' home, the grandparent can then become a legal guardian for that child. So we'll go through the court process to become the child's legal guardian. And I like that over adoption because that child gets to remain with the family. So
Yeah.
that child might not return to the parent, but is still within the family.
Letitia, on to you.
So I have a question, obviously. So how I'm not ready right now to be a foster parent, but I would love to be in the system. And so how long can I initiate the process? And then for how long do I stay in the system to then we restart all over again if I have to?
Well, you can give me a call and then we can kind of discuss. What I normally do is anybody that's interested, I'll have like what's called a screening. And so from that screening, we'll do an assessment to see if you're ready to just even learn more about the process. Because this is just a short presentation. There's more details in regard to the application and the next steps. And so from the screening, then we'll have a conversation and then we can kind of make an assessment. So when you are ready, then you could always reach back out to me and you'd be like, Sandra, I'm ready to get started. What do I need to do? But my number and my email address is in the chat. So if you want to talk offline, go over specifics, we can do that.
And Abbott House has been in existence for a while, though. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of your org?
Sure.
Yeah.
We started off in Irvington in about November of 1963. And then from there, we've expanded our program. So we have several programs outside of fostering. We have several group homes and SPDD programs throughout the counties. So it's not just fostering that we do. This is specific. Fostering is specific to what I do and my department does. But we have many programs that supports not just in New York City, but in the counties as well.
Yeah, so we also have a very a large program that supports adults with developmentally disabled, and they cannot reside at home, so they live in our group homes until they can no longer live in our group homes. So our group homes are their forever home. We also have non-secure detention services. So instead, if a young person allegedly committed a crime, instead of that young person being placed in some kind of detention, they're placed in a group home. That's not a lockdown facility. They follow through with court services and things like that. We have a community school program in the Bronx, PS 294 and 311. We provide mental health support within those two schools. We also provide support around parent advocacy within the school and mental health advocacy. The community school goal is to help to ensure that the attendance is up for all children and that families supported so that they are able to bring our kids to school. We have a post-permanency program. So if a foster parent adopts or became a legal guardian for a child, there are supports for that foster parent who is now an adoptive parent. And those supports are within the home, includes education advocacy, parenting skills counseling, respite services, all of those services. What else? We have a community residence where we provide mental health support for children with mental health issues who are not able to stay at home, but the goal is for them to return home so they're able to stay in our community residence to get the mental health support that they need until they can return home. And that stays does not go longer than about 8-9 months. Am I missing anything, Simone?
The programs?
You know, in regards to our programs, we have
Um,
group homes.
The
Yes.
TRC.
Yeah, I was just gonna say TRC.
We also provide kids who have come to the United States unaccompanied. And so that's a federal program that we have. So we provide a shelter. We have a shelter program as well as foster care programs for those young kids, for those young people.
And did you mention Community Hub as well?
Community.
Had to have, oh, I'm sorry. The program where the workers go out to the homes with the children and spend some time with them.
Yeah, the Primacy Resource Center.
Yes. That's all of our programs. And I guess Fair Futures would be considered partnering because they work with the youths until the age of 26. So even after the children are no longer in foster care, they still get the support of Fair Futures up to that age where the coaches work with them, teaching them how to write checks, pay bills, anything such as if they have other children of their own, getting WIC services, helping them do resumes and just building their life and career paths. So there's a lot of different programs at this agency.
Okay.
We have some questions in the chat.
Yes.
I'm not sure if Simone or Yalitza can answer this. Is there a zip code that is largely impacted or overly represented in your organization? I wouldn't say specific a zip code, but because the children come from all over. So
Yes.
what we generally try to do is try to keep children in their communities. So if a child is from Queens, we try to keep a child in Queens, or closest to their prospective schools. Same thing in the Bronx, because we are located in the Bronx. We try to keep our children as close to their familiars, such as their school, and other activities that maybe they're in, to try to minimize disruption. We do not necessarily work with New York Foundling, but we are a foster care agency like New York Foundling, and we have multiple programs similar.
We
Similar
do
like
work
that.
with New York. So we do work with New York Foundling in regards to tutoring. We contract with New York Foundling through their Road to Success program to provide tutoring for our kids within the foster home.
Okay. I had a question in terms of it. So when you'd reached out to the board, you had provided a flyer that talked about like week info sessions.
Yes. So
So
every
can you?
Thursday, I have a weekly foster parent orientation. It's every Thursday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. I go over a little bit more in depth with our agency, children in care, but more in depth to the overall application process and the pre-certification training requirements, as well as once your home is open, what additional requirements are needed to maintain your home being open, and
Okay.
answering any questions specifically related to placements and managing our expectations when you get a call from Ms. Campbell or one of our assistant directors at our program regarding a possible match for you and what does that look like. Because Ms. Campbell can speak to it, but I'm just going to generalize it. When she gets a call, or if a member of the team gets a call about a child coming into care, she may have, what she will have is the age of the child. She'll have the gender of the child or how the child identifies. But she may not have the school. She may not know the cognitive, social, or emotional development of the child, because that may not be what was disclosed when the child was placed into care. So we essentially, you have to view the child as a puzzle. and that you're putting all the pieces together once a child is in your home, once they get familiar with you. Because there are going to be some things that we don't know. And that's just because we just don't know, or wasn't disclosed to the CPS worker when the children were removed, which can happen. So we try to be as transparent as possible. And so it's important that we work in partnership, because if you're noticing behaviors or anything in the home, our goal is to really try to support the child and support you while you're supporting the child, so that we can best meet the child's needs. So if the child needs additional services such as counseling, or maybe early intervention, or something along those lines, if you see something, you communicate it with the case planning team so that we can collectively support the child, and we can have the whole full picture of the child and help the child on the journey of healing.
Okay. And Ms. Campbell, did you want to add anything to that? I know Ms. Horn said that you could add more, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had anything you wanted to say
No,
to that.
it's fine. It's more like what Ms. Horn said. I try my best to give the foster parents the information that I do have. If the child is already within our agency and this is like a replacement from another home, or maybe just a respite placement, which is like if the foster parent is going on a vacation and unable to take the child with them, we utilize other homes for respite. I will have way more information about the child than I would as if the child was coming from the children's center. Because like Ms. Grant mentioned earlier, the children's center isn't really for the children to stay for a long period of time. So the information that they are able to provide for me is the initial information of the child. So they get like medical checks. They know the reason of why the child came into care. I'll be able to tell you the ethnicity, maybe if they have a specific religion or speak certain languages. Sometimes I do have the school information, and sometimes there is some medical or mental information that I do have, because either the children are old enough to disclose that, or they may have been at the children's center for a longer period of time because a home wasn't able to be found for them right away. If I do have that information, I make sure I give you all of the information, because I never want there to be an opportunity where you as the foster parent or anyone as the foster parent feel as if the agency is disclosing information in order to make placements, because not only do we have to think about what's right for the child, also you as a foster parent, there will be certain things that you would work better with than somebody else will. So I have to make sure that I am matching with the child with the best person, so the success rate of not having to remove the child and place them into another home stays up. And also, what else? Sorry.
Okay. All right. No, thank you for that, Ms. Campbell. And
You're
then,
welcome.
and then Nellie, I saw your hand. I recognize your hand.
Thank you, Lauren. Sandra, thank you so much for your presentation, and to you and your colleagues for all the work you're doing. A couple of what I think will be quick questions. One is, given that we are a Queens community board, and we know Queens is just home to such a ethnically diverse community, I'm wondering, are there specific languages or cultures or families you might be seeking that would be most helpful to you? And then the second part of that question is, this could be something, and I heard you say you, unfortunately, I think, have a high need for foster families. We do have a newsletter that I can't promise gets a very wide reach, but we do have some reach and could include some language there, and perhaps could highlight, in fact, if there are cultures or languages of families you might be seeking, we can in fact highlight in that outreach. So just to summarize that, if there's some very high level messaging that you'd like us to include, we can include it. And I'm also adding the layer of if there's particular types of families from particular cultures or languages, we could also include that. layer here too.
We need foster parents across the board of all diverse backgrounds because sometimes we do get a lot of children who are coming into care from only Spanish speaking homes, but we're also getting children that are coming into care that maybe have Farsi or I think there was even a child that came into care that was Mandarin speaking only. Bengali. There's a range.
Especially with the destitute minors.
Yes. So all backgrounds are needed, truthfully. Those are just a sum of the few that we are seeing within the last, I would say, last 3 to 6 months. Spanish speaking, of course, but it ranges for sure.
Also French speaking, we have few kids kids that are coming from other countries and they speak French only.
I would add, like, there's a lot of different African dialects that a lot of the children who are destitute minors do speak. You know, a lot of African countries, they speak multiple languages. So there are some dialects that we aren't able to accommodate as much. French is usually something that we can, or Spanish speaking, but as Sandra mentioned, Mandarin or most of the African dialects, we would probably need a higher need for those homes.
And foster parents who are Muslim.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good, yes. And large sibling groups has also been, I've seen an increase in that within the past few months as well.
I like that you prioritize that, trying to keep siblings together. That's very important, especially when everything else has been so disrupted, like in terms of the family structure. To be able to be with your siblings I think is so important. Question though, in terms of the weekly info sessions, is that virtual? Because I know like it was.
Yes.
Okay, so this is how we would still, even when we're in Queens, be able to because the flyer was about Bronx. So that's what we would use, because we can include that in the newsletter.
Yes.
Like
So
as an
the
attachment.
yeah. So do you have the flyer?
I have the flyer. Let me just see. Yeah.
So
I
the
have the
QR
flyer.
code leads you to the Zoom link.
Okay.
So if you're unable to make it to this Thursday, we have, every Thursday
Okay.
that follows. And if, let's say, for example, your work schedule doesn't align with the 5 to 6 orientation on Thursdays, you could always call me and then we can schedule an individual meeting that works for your schedule.
Okay, because I think that's something that like in addition to what you were saying, Nelly, I think that's something that we need to include when in terms of the newsletter. So we can reach out to the Engagement and Inclusion Committee about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like Nelly said, to get a wider reach than our meeting tonight.
It's greatly appreciated. Just and it's really kind of like a word of mouth. So if you don't know of anyone who's interested, you always can share the flyer on your social media page if you want, post it in your building, post it in your community. So any little bit helps. If you belong to any church or any outside organization, just share the need, because the need is great for children in care.
Okay. Thank you. Did anybody have sorry. I think Ms. Naranjo, did you have other? Yeah. You are on mute.
I want to say that
Okay.
my team work together with the prospective foster parent. We guide the prospective foster parent through the whole process. Even when the homes are licensed, we continue in the foster parent's life. So we are always available to support and help. Anytime, right? That we always make ourselves available to help the prospective and when the foster parents become licensed.
Okay. Thank you for that. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or add? And Dr. Roz, are you satisfied with the question as to how, at least the answer to the question of how CB2 can help? Or that's Dr. Roz's signature question at our meetings.
Yes, thanks. So no need to ask, 'cause
Okay.
it's up to the plate and it's
All
not
right.
quite.
I wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank
for
you. Thank
having us here, for listening, and for taking the message back.
Will do. Thank you for reaching out to the board and thank you for coming tonight as well.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank
okay.
you. Have a
And
good
thank you
night,
for the good
everyone.
work that you do
Thank
too. I
you.
mean, I'm going to say
Yes.
that too.
Thank you.
Have
Okay.
a great night, everyone.
All right. Enjoy. Okay. What do we have? Old business, new business?
I apologize for coming on a little late, but yeah, this was spectacular.
Okay. That's fine, Dr. Roz. And Leticia covered your question with respect to Luis Garcia, the principal from Queens Tech High School. So you were represented in spirit, Dr. Roz. So and Leticia.
So hi, question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know question, but a concern. So, I just got home from an SLT meeting at the Sunnyside Middle School on Barnett Avenue, and they shared that on Barnett and 48th Street, the drivers are not um obeying the crossing guard. And so recently in the last week, a car was turning from Barnett onto 48th Street, and as the crossing guard had her sign and the student was crossing the street. And so um how can we, I don't know, add enforcement to it at this point? Um, it, I don't know if this would be like a transportation committee thing, but also speed cameras and the school crossing sign as well. I think I've mentioned before a couple of times in this committee meeting and also at the larger board meeting, just how reckless the drivers are around that school area. And so the school is getting another crossing guard, but there's already a crossing guard where this incident happened recently, and they're going to add one on 48th and 39th Avenue, but it doesn't. I don't know if like some sort of enforcement could happen beyond the crossing guards being in place.
Dr. Roz, you wanted to respond to that? I know you started to because you did the thumbs up for Transportation Committee because that's what I was thinking too. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's absolutely a transportation committee thing. But in addition, I think the more information we get, and if, I don't know if there's a 311 category, I would think people would take it extremely seriously if a crossing guard is not being obeyed, as it were. I mean, you know, it's interesting. The New York State has specific rules for construction sites, and they give, for instance, the flaggers. The flaggers are the people that are most likely to be killed at such places, and they have specifically designated authority, even though they don't have a badge or any other uniform. But and after the crossing guard that was killed down on Cross Bay and Atlantic, Christina Naprawa, I would think their union also should be very vocal as well. That's just appalling. If it was just a one-time thing, but I think you can, also DOT is probably that. I don't know whether you want the police department, but in terms of designing structures, I don't know that whether a speed camera is going to work there, because I mean, Barnett is already a very narrow road. 48th Street's a totally different beast. And where is it that, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say because I live around the corner, but I don't know where the kids come out and where they're picked up and where, these things are happening, but it's, absolutely needs attention.
Yeah. The TC, how do you feel about just emailing the community board office and also the chair of the transportation committee to explain all the details about and what's needed, what you believe is needed and what you heard?
Yeah.
And that, not
Yes.
waiting for any meeting or anything else like that, but just kind of like
I
sending
could
an
do that in the
email.
morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think last year when the student got run over, it was like like way after dismissal. And the student just happened to be leaving the school a little bit later. And it was again on Barnett Avenue. And I think one of the issues is that Barnett is like a one-way, two-way kind of situation where, it goes down this way and then it also comes this way and you got to either make a left or a right once you get on 48. And what I think or what seems to be happening all the time is that the drivers are just swerving and rushing to beat the lights. And so, they don't care, But yeah, but I will email the office
Okay.
and
Yeah.
who's the chair of the
Riley Owens.
transportation?
Riley
Oh, okay. Right, Riley. All right,
lives
cool.
nearby. I'm sure he'll, walk over and take a look and see when it's happening and so on. I mean, you're right about the design of the streets. It, in a sense, calms traffic, just like the 39th Ave, but it forces turns at those corners. In some ways, I would think they ought to close Barnett Ave when school is being let out at certain hours, that should just have what do they call it, a school street or something like that. So that would be another.
I mean, and I think the other issue is that Barnett becoming just a one-way is like fairly recent because it used to be a two-way a couple of years ago. And even till now, I don't know if you guys ever walked down Barnett, but there's like that garage for that big, large building. And even though you're supposed to, once you're exiting the garage, you're supposed to make a right, people still make a left, even though you're way beyond the lane where you could possibly make a left. So people are just, Barnett Avenue's reckless.
Yeah. Well, I think also once the building that they're building down below between 50th and 52nd is completed. I mean, right now there are construction issues and that narrows the road even more. But we're going to have a lot more traffic and they need to pay attention to that. Maybe that's what whether they can do a lot before that happens in anticipation. I don't exactly know. But anyway, Amparo, I see your hand raised.
I wanted to respond to one thing you mentioned, Roz, which is there isn't a specific 311 category for the school crossing guard or like saying anything on 311 to report like drivers being reckless in that specific way. So I just checked 311 and yeah, unfortunately there's no way. I would think it would be a call for the 108.
Yeah.
I think actually, since the crossing guards normally are part of NYPD, but not the precinct level. So I think they would be appalled. I mean, does the crossing guard, her or himself, have anything to say about this? Does this happen regularly? Did you talk to them?
Well, I didn't talk to them, but it's been an ongoing issue. They parents bring it up at the SLT meetings frequently. We had a CEC meeting at the school a couple of weeks ago, and it was brought up there too. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and just anecdotally, I've I've seen this, I've observed this, that I live down the block from that intersection. So Leticia, you've actually seen me walking there many times with the baby. And yeah, I think there's a lot of fair amount of cut through traffic that goes down Barnett that wants to kind of not hit lights or stop signs or turn off of 39th Avenue, the bike boulevard. So unfortunately, some drivers do go on Barnett and take those turns pretty recklessly, as we've observed, just to kind of cut through the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up, Leticia, and then for following up with Transportation Committee. And hopefully can get some traction here with that. And Dr. Ross, did you have something else that you wanted to say for old business, new business, or anything?
Not that I recall.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Well,
Okay,
next month.
next month.
Yeah, we'll reach out to Riley especially to try
Okay.
to get something moving here. That
Yeah.
I think it would be very important. The crossing guards are usually they're the same person. It's not the for the most part. And so it should be possible to speak with that particular one. Or is it more in the morning, at night? Do we have any sense about that?
Well, the crossing guards are only on duty during school hours. So school hours would be like 7:30 to like maybe like 4.
Yeah, I thought that, do they stay during the day, all day long?
Sometimes they'll like hang around and linger around, but they don't like stay posted.
Yeah, I think, so I wondered if the person who does the morning shift would necessarily be the same as
Oh,
after.
yes. Yeah,
Sure.
usually.
About one or maybe two people, we need to speak with them. Find out what, you know, and if they are, I mean, the parents are concerned, but is the crossing guard concerned? What's the crossing guard doing about it?
And Nellie?
Well, I want to pivot from this issue and also mention, since we are also a health committee, that would be remiss if we're not talking about here what's happening at the federal level and the dismantling of the federal agency that has been a longstanding source of science and credible recommendations, the CDC. And so right now in public health, the CDC is no longer being regarded as a trusted source of public health guidance and recommendations. In fact, one of the advisory bodies, ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, there was an independent body that would make recommendations on immunization schedules, has been replaced by, personal, appointments on this committee, and they just voted to essentially change a decades-long, Hep B recommendation for infants. I think that we as a health committee should keep mind of what's happening. And in fact, I was happy that at our board meeting this week, there were students talking about, ways the health department and Department of Education can work together, which, by the way, they already do. There wasn't sort of novelty in that. I was a little bit concerned to, in fact, see our own board members raise questions about New York City government showing leadership in the arena of health and science. And so I want this group to clearly know and understand that the New York City Department of Health is the oldest and largest, after the CDC, health agency in the country. And now with the decline of the CDC, the New York City Health Department should be regarded as best positioned to sort of counter inaccurate and misinformation coming out of the national level. So we should, as a committee here, really elevate messaging that's coming out of the health department. They're regularly, I think, putting out communications to correct the narrative of whatever is being shared federally. They're doing that in real time. They're working around the clock to do that. and I'm always sort of sending things for the newsletter that we can push out to just make sure everyone sort of has eyes on it or has awareness, because not everyone's like following it closely or understanding what's going on. So I just wanted to just mention that here for this group to be aware of what's happening in public health, and it's worrisome, really dangerous. And, in January, we'll know if we have, thinking about measles, for example, by January, we'll know if we no longer are considered essentially a country that has eradicated this infectious disease. So, I'm hopeful with a new administration coming on that we will have additional resources to support the work that's happening here. But to the degree that you can, I think point people to messaging and guidance coming out of New York City over what's happening, what's coming out federally.
Thank you for bringing that up, Nellie. I share your concerns. So, in terms of the questions that were asked of the board at our full board meeting, I did follow up with the representative. So they're supposed to get back with an answer on that question about the restrictions between between federal and city and state and whatever. But I actually appreciate the fact that the city and hopefully the state are taking the lead in all of this, because it is. We need real information, not misinformation or disinformation. And we are rolling back so many of the progress that we have made, in so many areas, so many areas, and health is a problem. Health is a problem. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. What was the question on restrictions? I don't think I followed
The
that.
question was the one that was asked about, like, what restrictions what federal restrictions are there, I guess, on the city and state coming up with its own vaccine guidelines, and if so, yeah, if are there any, and if so, what are they? So that was the question that the federal rep was supposed to go and check to see if there are any, but hopefully, because that was the question that was asked.
Yeah,
Basically.
Generally guidance for vaccine schedules are not sort of like restricted by state boundaries. They're like, as the American Pediatric Associations, for example, will come up with guidance that then is endorsed, for example, by the CDC. So not often that we'd have like our own recommendation, but there's been like decades of research and evidence and established practices that we want to point to and maintain that we know have served us well.
Yeah.
So I think those are the practices we want to uphold and not abandon.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you're sending information to the for our newsletter and stuff, because we're gonna have to keep pointing people into like reliable, trusted sources. Sorry. Okay. And then Amparo, I know you dropped something in the chat
Yeah,
about.
but Roz does have her hand up.
Sorry. I can't. You know what it is? I'm sorry. It's this. I'm sorry. I had the thing that's blocking. Like I was only seeing part of the I guess it was the live stream message that says, okay. So sorry for that, Dr. Roz.
No, I have said for years, more lives have been saved by public health than all other areas of medicine combined. And it is very sad, Nellie, you're really onto this world especially. And I do think it might, I'm wondering if even a letter of some support or statement of rather than, I mean, a lot of our letters are about problems and things that need, but let's support the State Department of Health. And I guess as a corresponding city agency, whoever raised that issue in our meeting, it was almost as if we wouldn't be allowed. We're always allowed to speak up and say what we want to do and try to do it, for goodness sakes. I mean, that's after all what the Orange Man is doing now. He doesn't ask if it can be done. He just does it and sees if anybody's going to stop. So let's, fight fire with fire.
Yeah, and sorry, yeah, and Leticia, you're right. I mean, this is the thing. It's like to go to New York City public schools, students need to be vaccinated.
And
mean,
for
and
the, yeah,
go
for
ahead.
just so everyone's awareness, New York City has pretty high rates of vaccination. It's like we're at a 99% level. It has dropped in, fluctuated, I won't say dropped in recent years, part of because of access to care, COVID, but generally New York City does have high rates of vaccination. But New York City is also a leader in public health, and a lot of what happens here, you know, I think sends signals and messages to other places. So I think we have a broader reach. We have a, you know, a budget for communications and media that no other health department, municipal health department has in this country. So what I'm pointing out is that in the absence and vacuum of a federal agency, we're lucky that we get to live here and benefit from, you know, the work and public health leadership of the New York City Health Department.
Okay, good. Good. And then, Amparo, did you want to talk about the stuff that you dropped
Sure.
in
I just know that our committee, we were trying to put together something about like know your rights
You
and
still
know,
are.
that we still are, but just in the absence of that,
Okay.
it's timely and necessary. So I wanted to uplift the work that other organizations are doing in collaboration with a bunch of our electeds. So I put 2 links in the chat. One is for the Queens Rapid Response Immigrant Justice Training on December 11th, and then one is a Queens training through Hands Off in New York City, and this is regarding ICE Rapid Response Training for bystanders and upstanders, and how to safely respond. So I wanted to make sure that like we were mentioning that in this committee as well.
Okay, thank you. And I think part of that's also responsive to what you were talking about too, Leticia, at the full board meeting during the public comments section. So how can we help our neighbors? Okay, so thank you for that. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up? Okay, Amparo, Leticia's thinking, so let's give
I'll
her
make a
moment.
motion to adjourn, but if it's not
Okay.
seconded, then we can keep on, you know.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay. I wish everybody a happy holiday season if I don't see you virtually or in person. Then hopefully I'll see you in the neighborhood. I like it when I run into to you folks. But anyway, stay safe, stay happy. And I just wish you peace, especially in a chaotic world. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
take care, everyone. Okay.